Welcome, new members, Tommy, David, Osteo, and Zilphia. Thank you for your support. It's much appreciated. Hello, travelers. Boardman21 here, and today got a build from you from Krucious, and this is a Bleeding Warpath Forge Guard. Now, you can play it as a Forge Guard, you can play it as a Paladin, you also don't even have to use Warpath, but it's applying all of the bleeds for us. You can do it with any skill that applies bleeds, which is fine, but we're taking advantage of the Abyssal Echoes that is allowing us to do massive damage. It will consume all bleed stacks on the enemy at once and do extra more damage to them, which makes it very, very effective, especially if you're stacking physical damage, damage over time, and you have a lot of bleed chance, bleed effectiveness, and bleed duration. All things that are really easy to get on the Sentinel class. It even has the affixes for the class that boost all of those things. You can get it on chest, you can get it on helm, there are even some relics that boost it even more powerful, or uniques that boost it even more. So let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Warpath, Abyssal Echoes, Sigils of Hope, Volatile Reversal, and Ring of Shields. For Warpath, we're using this to generate mana. We have some forged weapons that proc as well, and we're just using it to apply as much bleed as possible since we can constantly have it going up. We have lots of additional attack speed for lots of hits per second, and it's free to use. So we got 1 point in 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐦𝐦𝐩𝐬, 3 points in Gorebringer for the bleed chance and bleed duration, 2 points in Unchained for the -4 cost, 1 point in Reckless Spin for the -6 channel cost. If you have problems and you're having too much elemental resist or elemental damage taken, you don't have to put a point here. You can definitely throw it in here instead, and then just take the points out of the frequency for the forged weapons, as they're not going to be doing too much for you. You can throw them over here. In fact, if you don't build into this right side at all, you can even get more mana back per second from Dark Nexus. We got 1 point in Iron Reach, 2 points in Rolling Steel, 1 point in Battle Master's Blade, 2 points in Dark Nexus for that added mana back every 3 seconds, 2 points in Molten Path, 2 points in Way of the Executioner, 1 point in Forge Master Stance, and 2 points in Moving Force. For Abyssal Echoes, which is what's going to cause the big damage to happen, for it to do the 2 million, 3 million, 4 million damage, it's going to consume all stacks of bleed on the targets that it hits and apply the damage immediately. So we have 1 point in 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐸 Eruption, so it consumes all those bleed stacks and does the damage instantly. We have 4 points in Embrace the Darkness, which is going to give you a 100% damage over time buff, and it gives you more attack speed, which just helps you boost your damage even more by being able to apply more bleeds and do more damage with them. 3 points in Abyssal Tendrils gives you Time Rot chance with the buff. 1 point in Vorpal Reverberation gives you some spell damage. That's just to unlock these pathways. 2 points in Turbulence gives Abyssal Decay additional duration, not too worried about that. 1 point in Mopaya does Blind. 1 point in Fragility gives -10 physical resistance to enemies, and Abyssal Decay lingers. Now here's the thing. This physical resistance means you'll get even more damage because bleed is a physical damage type. So this is another 10% more damage modifier for you. And then 3 points in Crumbling for enemies to take an additional 24% increased damage over time. So you get some additional damage over time buff, you make enemies take additional damage over time, and you get rid of some of their physical resistance. So a lot of buffs going on here to make that bleed hit really hard, especially if you spam this more than the once every 4 seconds. So it actually has a 3-second cooldown, so you can have an uptime of this buff for the next one that goes off, which is just going to boost its damage that much more. For Sigils of Hope, we've got 5 points in Empowering Sigils, 1 point in Last Wish. You're not going to be manually casting this, you don't have the mana for it, but you will be getting lots and lots of kills, especially as you go through Echoes, hit everything with bleed, and they die behind you. This is going to allow you to get the Sigils active. This is purely used for defense, only a little bit of damage buff for it. We don't really count on the damage buff for it, but it's the defense that we want from it so that we have much higher survivability. Again, you'll have the 150% increased damage, or 120% if you have 4 of them active, but we really want the armor and the faith in order for us to have extra survivability. So we've got 5 points in Iron Sigils for the additional 200 flat armor per sigil active, so you can get 800 flat armor here, which will be more than doubled by all the increased armor we have in all of our different places. We have 5 points in Enduring Hope, so it lasts as long as possible. 1 point in Tetragram, so you can have that 4th one active. 1 point in Faith, so that you gain 200 health if you take more than 25% of your health in one hit, and you have a sigil active to be consumed. 2 points in Unwavering Faith reduces the amount of health that has to be gone, so it's actually reduced by 40%, so you only have to take about 13.5% of your total health in a single hit in order for this to be activated, or roughly about 250 damage if you have around 2,000 health. And what this will do is you will also get even more health restored. So this will restore 200 health, but there's a 20% increase, so you actually get the 250 health back. So if you're around 2,000 health, you basically get healed for how much you were hit for, as long as it wasn't greater than that 250 health. Then you'll still be missing some life, but it does help heal you. Volatile reversal, we have this set up so that we can apply more damage to enemies. That's all that we use it for. We're not using it for like mana back or anything else. It's just to apply more damage over time to the enemy, so that they will take a bigger hit from the Abyssal that we're about to go down on them with. We got 2 points in Time Sap, 1 point in Time Loss Vitality, 3 points in Catching Up, 1 point in Incipient Void Rift, 1 point in Terminal Void Rift, 3 points in Dark Expanse, 3 points in Disintegration, and then here's the big ones, 3 points in Time Rifts, so enemy damage over time taken by the Void Rifts once they've been hit by it. For 4 seconds, they'll take 60% more damage over time. And then on the left side, we have Harbinger of Dust, which makes enemies take 30% more damage if they've been hit with a timer. So between those two, you have some more damage modifiers. It almost doubles the damage of what Abyssal Echoes will do to an enemy. It's absolutely crazy. So when you're warpathing, right before you do Abyssal Echoes, you'll be warpathing, you'll use a Volatile reversal to hit everyone with the timers, and then you do the Abyssal Echoes and it just goes kaboom. And then we have Ring of Shields, which we're not casting on our own, but for survivability purposes, when we take hits as a Forge Guard, there's a chance for it to proc, and it won't cost the mana cost. So this is a way to get them for free to block projectiles coming in and give you some increased armor. We got 3 points in Bastion for the rotation distance, 3 points in Amass for additional shields, 2 points in Banding, 2 points in Enduring Defense, 2 points in Reinforcement, 3 points in Healing Shields, and 5 points in Phalanx, so that we get 50% additional armor for 4 seconds when they heal us. So when they're active, they'll be healing us every second. For passives, we have 30 points in the Sentinel base class with 8 points in Juggernaut, 8 points in Fearless, 5 points in Armor Clad, 4 points in Relentless, and all of those points so we can unlock the Blade Master. And we have 5 points in Blade Master so that we have 25% increased attack speed with an axe, and we are using a 200 axe, so it feels really good to get that attack speed. We have 10 points in the Void Knight, and all 10 points are in Abyssal Endurance. This gives us Void Resist, Physical Resist, and unlocks the Abyssal Echoes so that we can use it. In the Paladin, we have 16 points with 8 points in Conviction and 8 points in Defiance. This gives us some Elemental Resist. This is also going to give us Physical Penetration and Physical Damage, and the reason for this is so that we can unlock Sigils of Hope, as well as do more damage. And then we have 57 points in the Forge Guard, with 5 points in Battle Hardened, 10 points in Weapons Master, 1 point in Steel Aegis, 10 points in Smelter's Might. This gives us 70% bleed chance on hit, which is doubled for our two-hander. This also applies to minions, which is one of the reasons why we're having forged weapons be procced. When your forged weapons are hitting the enemies, they're applying bleeds as well, which just helps stack the damage and really helps against single targets. We've got 6 points in Might, 1 point in Folded Steel, 1 point in Iron Reflexes, 5 points in Infinite Bulwark, so when you use a potion, you'll instantly have 100% increased armor, and if you have 4 sigils with that flat armor, you'll instantly basically go to having 85% damage reduction through armor and 69.5% through all the other elements because of that armor. Huge damage reduction, huge survivability for the build. 1 point in Flawless Defender, 1 point in Ospric's Bane. I know we're not using a shield. This is to unlock the Shield Crafter, so with 3 points in there, we have a 3% chance every time we get hit for Ring of Shields to proc. And then the big one, 8 points in Molded by the Forge, which gives us 200% melee bleed chance when we use a two-handed axe, which we are. And then with the new implicits, the base axe has bleed chance on it, which is really powerful. Alright, for idols, items, uniques, blessings, I'm going to start off by saying you do not need the uniques. They are not mandatory, but they help. For idols, we have 2 2x2s, which you can get increased physical damage over time on. For prefixes, I'm not sure if there's something better than you can get than Echoes, but I believe there are a lot of other affixes you could possibly get on them. I did not look that part up, but it's the increased physical damage over time for the bleed That's really powerful. And then for the 1x3s, you want increased bleed duration as the suffix, and you can get increased physical damage over time as the suffix. The prefix bleed duration is what you want more of. So if you have ones with bleed duration, take those over the physical damage, because you want to be able to apply more stacks all at once so that you'll be able to do all of that damage at once. For items, this is the Bardich. You can wear it starting at level 71, and it comes with an implicit of up to 190% chance to bleed on melee hit, which is huge. And then on it, we're going to put increased damage over time, increased melee attack speed, very important to get the attack speed, chance to bleed on hit, and less damage taken on crit. At tier 5, tier 6, tier 7 for that less damage taken on crit, you actually don't have to run any critical strike avoidance at all anywhere else. You don't have to get the blessing, you don't have to run on gear. Just get a tier 5 on that with a good roll, max roll tier 5, or get a tier 6, tier 7 if you have an exalted Bardich that has dropped to you, and you don't have to run critical strike avoidance on anything. If you do get like tier 3, 4, 5, and you have to build into critical strike avoidance on top of it, then it's not worth it. So make sure you have a tier 5 one. It rolls between 43 and 50% less damage taken from a crit. At 50%, that basically negates a whole critical strike chance or critical strike hit. And then if you have only, 47 to 49%, you're only taking a few percent more from a critical strike. So it's not that bad. But this does save you from having to choose base types for the critical strike avoidance or do the blessing. For the uniques, we have the wing guards. This is just for the increased melee attack speed. It also gives you a chance to gain haste on hit, which is really nice. You can't deal critical strikes, but that's fine because we're not doing critical strikes. We're doing bleed damage, a dot. But if you don't want to wear these, you don't have to. Just put melee attack speed on a pair of gloves. Tier 5 is going to be around 20%, so it's about half what you'd get from these. But that's fine. You can definitely go without it. Now this is the big one. This is Valor's Chalice. Now while it's not mandatory for the build, it is going to increase your survivability greatly. Now what this does is it reflects 100% of damage, not worried about that, but it gives you more bleed chance on hit, increased bleed duration, and the big one, 2% of physical damage over time leached as health. That's what really helps your survivability, especially since you can't get leech on hit anymore on items. You also get 20 health gained per kill, or on kill, per stack of bleed on the target. So when you use Abyssal Echoes, and it applies all those bleeds instantly and kills an enemy, your life, even if you're at 1 health and you had 20 million life, it's going to completely fill up. Like, you are applying so many bleeds that getting 20 health per stack of bleed on a kill is just going to always be replenishing your life to full. I'm going to hover over the rest of the items, but this build planner, again, will be in the description below as well as in the written guide. Some of the big things to really improve your damage is the rare fixes, getting the hybrid physical damage, bleed duration, and increased bleed effect. While not necessary, they definitely will boost your damage. You only need tier 1 of them. You don't have to go tier 5, tier 6, tier 7. Tier 1, and you will already be hitting in the millions of damage. For blessings, nothing special. I haven't min-maxed this build at all. I did change a couple of these from what my character has. Most of these last ones, you can get increased armor. You can also get even more armor while channeling. So while Warpath is active, you'll have even more armor. This one has it at all times. We did physical shred resistance on hit, which would be really nice. If I had this on the build, we'd be hitting harder. And we have increased physical damage. Alright, travelers, for the character sheet, we have just over 2100 health. We have almost capped resistances. Again, we will lose some of the elemental while we're using Warpath, but you can switch those points around if you like. We got 46% armor just standing in place, but we have a lot of percent increases. So especially like once we have some sigils active, and we use a potion, for instance, you'll see we jump over 70%. It also goes up even more once you've been hit by an enemy. There's another increase of armor that you'll get there. So lots of survivability, a lot of damage reduction from that armor. For damage types, we have just under 500% physical damage and just under 500% damage over time. For defense, we almost capped our endurance. Again, critical strike avoidance don't have any because we have the affix on the sword to reduce critical strike damage. The way critical strike damage works is that you have an enemy that does not have critical strike multiplier, so their damage will always be double what a normal hit would be, and by your weapon on a tier 5 affix reducing it up to 50% puts it right back down to what a normal hit would have been. So it saves you a bunch of affixes. You don't have to hunt for those base types, you don't have to get the blessing, you don't have to take the suffix slots. And then for other, you can see we have 275% bleed chance and just over 1000 bleed damage. Alright, for skill rotation and how this build works, all you're going to do is Warpath. The sigils will proc themselves on kill, don't worry about casting them. The Ring of Shields will proc when you get hit by an enemy at a 3% chance, don't worry about those. You can have multiple instances up at the same time. Volatile Reversal is what you want to use because it's going to apply all the more damage modifiers. So you're going to be Warpathing, Reversal, then Abyssal. You don't have to do it in that order. You can skip the Reversal and just Warpath and use Abyssal, but you'll do about half the damage. So here we go. We just Warpathing, and you'll see that we got plenty of bleed damage going on. So just Warpathing, and we'll be proccing some forged weapons as well. You can see we're doing about 66,000 damage over time at our max duration. Slightly higher as we get more forged weapons, and they apply bleeds as well. We can cap out at about 100,000 damage over time. Then we'll use a Reversal and an Echo, and boom, 3.9 million damage just like that. Now, as we continue to attack this, you do not have to use Reversal. I could literally just use an Echo, and we did 1,000,000 damage with it again. And that means you can use it every time it goes off. So, boom, as soon as it's off cooldown, just keep using it. Boom, 1,000,000 damage. Boom, 750,000 damage. Boom, 700, 800,000 damage. So it does do more damage as you stack more bleed. Your bleed duration is about 7 seconds, so that's about where you'll get the max amount of bleeds put on an enemy. It's actually, I think, a little bit longer. That might be closer to like 10 seconds. And then you have Reversal, and Reversal will double the damage you would have done. So, like I said, you can do this. We'll do it for about 10 seconds. This will be the maximum damage that you could do against a boss. Reversal, Abyssal Echoes, boom. 3.3 million damage. Absolutely bonkers, absolutely crazy. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, stay safe and enjoy some gameplay.